What is up, my crime crazy people? My name is Courtney, and I'm a producer on the podcast Veil of Humanity. Today, I'm bringing you a short little episode we were supposed to record this weekend. However, due to the storm, that recording has been delayed, but fret not, we will be back soon. Today's story is a little bit of a dip back. We covered the Boston Marathon bombings in the last episode of See the Evil, Find the Hope 5, so this episode will be similar, but the entire recording will cover those victims who were so viciously attacked and some who unfortunately lost their lives. They deserved more, and I hope that this episode is a cautionary tale, and if anyone recognizes the signs, say something. Maybe we can prevent another tragedy like this from happening again. Before we begin, a content warning. This episode includes discussion of mass violence, death, domestic abuse, and harm to children. Listener discretion is strongly advised. On November 21st, 2021, the Waukesha Christmas Parade in Waukesha, Wisconsin was nearing its joyful finale. Marching bands filled Main Street with music, dance troupes waved to families bundled up against the cold. For many, it was the unofficial start of the holiday season. Within minutes, that joy would turn into terror. At approximately 4:39 p.m., a red Ford Escape broke through parade barricades and accelerated down the parade route. The driver did not slow down. Instead, the vehicle swerved towards groups of people, striking parade participants and spectators alike. 6 people would lose their lives. More than 60 others would be injured, at least 40 seriously. Many of the victims were children. Those who died were deeply rooted in their community. 3 were members of the Milwaukee Dancing Grannies, a group known across Wisconsin for spreading joy at parades and charity events. Virginia Sorensen, 79, a volunteer, a church member remembered for her warmth and generosity. Leanna Owen, 71, a grandmother, described as kind, dependable, and devoted to her family. Tamara Durand, 52, known for her energy, creativity, and love of performance. Also killed was Wilhelm Hospel, 81, a retired Navy veteran and parade spectator who had come to support local performers. Jane Coolidge, 52, a bank employee and mother of 2, was marching in the parade as part of her workplace's holiday celebration. And Jackson Sparks, just 8 years old, a child who loved baseball, Pokemon, and making people laugh. He fought for his life for 2 days before dying from his injuries. Each loss sent shockwaves through Waukesha and far beyond it. Witnesses described scenes of confusion and panic. Music stopped mid-performance. Costumes were torn. People ran towards the injured using coats as tourniquets while waiting for ambulances. Law enforcement officers already stationed nearby began rescue efforts and stopped the vehicle further down the route. The driver fled on foot but was arrested shortly afterwards. He was identified as Darrell Brooks, Jr., age 39. Early on, authorities were careful to clarify that this attack was not terrorism. There was no evidence of extremist ideology, political motivation, or coordination with others. Instead, investigators uncovered a different and deeply troubling picture. Just minutes before the parade attack, Brooks had been involved in a domestic dispute with his ex-girlfriend, Erica Patterson. According to prosecutors, Brooks was angry, emotional, and fleeing the scene when he encountered the parade route. Rather than stopping, turning around, or slowing down, Brooks chose to drive directly into the crowd. Prosecutors later argued this was an intentional act fueled by rage, an explosion of violence following a personal conflict. The state's case centered on intent, not ideology. Evidence presented at trial showed that Brooks accelerated as he entered the parade route. He steered towards people rather than away from them. He ignored opportunities to stop. He continued driving even after striking victims. Prosecutors described the motive as anger, control, and a complete disregard for human life, triggered by the domestic incident but compounded by a long history of violent behavior. Brooks himself offered shifting explanations, at times claiming panic, mechanical failure, or loss of control. These claims were contradicted by video evidence, eyewitness testimony, and vehicle data. The jury rejected his explanations. As the investigation deepened, attention turned to Brooks's past. He had an extensive criminal history, including domestic violence charges, battery, reckless endangerment, violations involving weapons. At the time of the parade, Brooks was out on bail for a separate violent offense, having allegedly run over the same ex-girlfriend weeks earlier. This sparked widespread criticism and scrutiny of Wisconsin's bail system, raising questions about risk assessment, prosecutorial discretion, and whether the tragedy could have been prevented. Multiple reviews and policy changes followed in the months after the attack. In 2022, Brooks chose to represent himself, a rare and controversial decision. The trial was marked by frequent outbursts, arguments with the judge, and emotionally charged testimony from survivors, first responders, and victims' families. At times, the proceedings were paused to maintain order. Despite the disruptions, the evidence was overwhelming. The jury found Brooks guilty on all counts, including 6 counts of first-degree intentional homicide and dozens of counts related to reckless endangerment and hit and run. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, to be served consecutively with additional sentences totaling hundreds of years. Today, Waukesha continues to heal. Memorials line Main Street. The dancing grannies still perform, carrying the memory of those they lost. Each Christmas season brings both grief and resilience. The Waukesha Christmas Parade attack was not random, and it was not ideological. It was the result of untreated violence, ignored warning signs, and a moment of unchecked rage that forever altered a community. The victims are remembered not for the way they died, but for the joy, service, and love they gave while they lived. Alright, my crime crazy people, we'll be back next week with a brand new episode. To see all of our source material, please consult the show notes. If you don't mind, please leave us a review and let us know how we are doing. Don't forget to click that subscribe follow button. Catch us on our social medias, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Veil of Humanity Podcast. Also, if you have any questions or want to provide feedback or have any case suggestions, please send us an email at veilofhumanity@gmail.com. Produced and edited by Courtney Santos. Music is by Myuu and Lucjo. Alright, Bronk, tell the people we will see them again next week.